Thank you so much for joining today's webinar on the new job page. The new job page is built and designed with your business in mind, helping you plan and price your projects, stay on top of key project information, and make smarter decisions for your team and the business. In today's session, I'm joined by Jake and Sarah from the product team. Jake is our front-end engineer who was also a lead on this project alongside Sarah, who was basically behind all the design and product decisions in Streamtime. So today we will be taking you through all the key elements of the new job page and how they can benefit your business. But before we look into all of that, we will start by discussing what this project is and how it came about as well. So welcome to the webinar, guys.
Hi.
Hi. It's been a long time since we've done one, the three of us. I don't think we've ever done one, the three of us. So let's see how we go. Before we start, please, a bit of housekeeping, guys. Introduce yourself in the chat. There's also a poll. If you have a second to spare, please complete that poll as well. The information is really useful for us in the future and in general. But more importantly, say hi, tell us where you come from, your role in the business, any questions that you have about the job page. Even if you haven't switched yet, please send it through in the chat and we will cover them at the end as well. So we've got some of our team members, Julia and Moria, in the chat as well. They will be keeping an eye on the questions too. Yeah, please, it would be nice to see the poll answers. We can review that at the end. Okay, so before we look at the new job page, I would like to look back at this project, and it took us a long time to get here. And I would like to talk about what sort of prompted this project to even exist. So Sarah, as a head of product and brand, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what made us look at redesigning the new job page and how it came about.
Absolutely. I think I could talk for the entire 30 minutes on why we looked at this, but the shortest version is that we're looking at the entire product from a technical perspective from the ground up. So refactoring everything to make it more accessible, to make a brand new design system, and to be able to install kind of design tokens. So that's sort of like a technical reason. And then from a customer perspective, we've been getting requests and feedback around having expenses in the job plan and easier usability across the job plan in general. And so when we kind of talked to the team about it and bounced ideas back and forth, Jake was the one who kind of said, you know what, if we redo this in a really slick, easier way, we'll be able to update it better and it'll take just as much time and we can actually improve so many things about the page. So yeah, we embarked on a fairly large ongoing modernization effort, which Jake can talk about more, and the job page is part of that. So yeah, you will see that the improvements are, some of them are UX, but the biggest one, I think, feature-wise, well, there are many big feature ones, but one of the biggest ones is having those expenses available to be dragged into phases now so that you can more easily see your external expenses as well as your internal costs within the phases themselves.
Yeah, amazing. That's all really exciting. And we will show you all the new functionality in a second as well. I have a follow-up question for you, Sarah. What was the most exciting, what was your favorite thing when working on the new job page? I'll go first if you like. I give you a second to think about it. I was lucky to be involved in this project as well. And I loved all the user research that we've done. So the version that we are looking at, or we're about to look at, it took us some time to get there. So there are multiple iterations took place, and most of those came from the feedback that you guys share with us and all the calls that we've done throughout. So that was really exciting to see the end result, which is, I mean, nothing's really finished in software development, but I guess the existing job page answering all those job to be done from our users.
Yeah, I had to think about this, and partly it's a lot of the things that look the simplest in terms of UX, and I think Jake can touch on how difficult some of the simple things look. But the pulse check section is actually what I was landing on, because that is a brand new part of the job page, and it kind of speaks to a greater strategy overall that we want to do within Streamtime, which is to help you build a better business from both a profitability perspective and a team perspective. So the data we currently have is mainly driven by profitability, but there was some really cool kind of logical mathematical worker like equations that we had to do to sort of benchmark jobs within. If no one knows what I'm talking about, it is the pulse check panel on the new job page. It gives you a comparison of how your job is going versus other jobs in your system. And so Alan, who's our head of technology, he worked with me on that to figure out how to kind of create those bounds and to show where jobs sit, and also a whole bunch of different insights that show depending on how the job is going. So that's really fun. That was really fun and challenging as a puzzle. And it's growing. So if there's any sort of insight that you want to see on the job, it's the sort of thing that we can go back and go, okay, what kind of data could we show, and at what point? What kind of things, like when you're planning a job, when you're planning hours, when you're assigning team members, what are the things that you want to know in that little section? So that can really, really grow. And grow even more as we build out our strategy to include more team happiness data, which is something that we will talk about in the future.
Yeah, nice. The way I look at the pulse check is like, I think of it as one of us analyzing your job, and one of us in customer success looking at your job and giving you prompts and ideas on what you can do better, how it can be set up or utilized more, etc. So it is really exciting, and we will show you some different examples of pulse checks insights that you will see throughout you using Streamtime. Jake, I have a question for you. You are the technical guy. So what about the technical challenges that you experience? Can you share any in layman terms with all of us, and what you've experienced in the past 6 months and how it challenged you?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. One big thing is that we sort of changed the architecture of the front end. So the way that we get the data and sort of use it. The other little projects for monetization was sort of a bit simpler. So we kind of had an idea what we would do, but there was a lot of discovery and just figuring stuff out along the way to kind of make it work as good as it can. And probably one big part is the reordering of items and expenses now in phases. Before, it was a little bit hacky. It was sort of just like a single list, and phases and items were treated equally. But now we had to fully change the structure of it. We had to change the library we used a little bit and actually go a little bit more lower level and do more of the work ourselves, which was pretty hard. We actually initially tried to have a go at it and failed completely, but then came back to it later, and we ended up getting something that works really nicely now. But yeah, very challenging.
It's all the little things that that I think, I think Jake said the other day about something he's working on. He goes, it's probably going to be one line of code that takes way longer than something that's simpler but is more lines.
No, that does sound quite challenging, to be honest. We sort of touched base on that, Sarah, at the beginning, but I guess I haven't looked at the poll answers. I could see one out of the 35 hasn't switched yet. This is a bit of a disclaimer. We do recommend switching to the new job page and start using it as soon as possible, because we are planning to say goodbye to the current job page. So the sooner you jump into it, the better, so you can start taking advantage of the new functionality that we're about to show you. And also, when we do make the switch or full cut over, it won't be as, I guess, as a bigger surprise for you when we do that, which is going to happen in the upcoming weeks. So yeah, it is a good time for you to start using it. Okay, let's take a look. I think we've been chatting for 10 minutes, and heads up, we might take longer today to run you through the job page, because there's a lot to discuss. If you need to leave, that's okay as well. This session is being recorded, so you can always come back and rewatch it in your own time. Let me start sharing my screen. And you let me know if you see the job page, the new job page. Yeah? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Amazing. I can't see anyone, so I'm just
sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Come on, guys. All right. So I will talk about big changes, and I also want to talk about everything. So let's see how we go. I guess let's start with the key elements of the job page. So we call this section a jumbotron. So the key info, progress bars, pulse check that we discussed briefly, the chart and activity, all of this section is called the jumbotron internally, which could be viewed as a sort of a job dashboard. So if you are familiar with the, I don't know how to call it now, existing or old job page, there are no more tabs or different ways to view your information. We show you all the key information on one page, so you can make better decisions faster. So the key info box here, it has been changed slightly. So you could see that now we've added the settings area of the job. And to jump to the settings area of the job, you need to click on the key information, any of the key information here. We only display what sits in the settings page. So for example, for this production studio company, I don't have a contact added. Once I add a contact and then save, you'll see that this info will also appear in the main job page, which is really cool. To get to the settings page, you can also click on the job name. Previously, if you would remember, you were able to change the job name directly. You can do the same, but within the settings page as well, and then save those changes too. Depending on the job numbering system that you use, it will show you an option to either edit the job number, or if the job numbering is automated, you'll be able to simply copy it if you need to store it elsewhere. And let's say we have a PO number received from client, you can add that in. And then again, we will show all of this info in the key info page. So you don't have to ideally go into the setting page that often. Budget, use, sell, and plan, all those figures and profitability or profit margin plan versus projected will stay the same. So we're still showing it to you on the key information area, but then you are, of course, able to switch between sell values and cost values, which is really exciting because now with this job page, not only we update those figures here to cost, you are also able to see how your job plan is tracking using cost versus sell or total plan, sorry. So you can change that directly in the top right corner. Progress bars, I believe, Sarah, and correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't made that many technical changes to it, maybe some design updates. So essentially the progress bar, they did stay the same. Am I?
Yeah.
You obviously have the full breakdown of used and planned hours in hours and dollars, and even percentage used.
That is new. Yeah, the tooltip's new, where we've added the percentage used. So we felt that would be a useful thing for people to be able to see.
Yeah, amazing. And then you could see a similar information within the job plan as well, within the tooltip that we display on the face, which I will touch on in a minute. So the pulse check is another section that we've added, which is exciting. And Sarah talked about it. I talked about it. I can't stress enough how important this is and how exciting it is at the same time. So here I've got an example of some of the insights or prompts that we share with customers. And the way I would love for you to think of the pulse check is it's like you talking to one of our customer success consultants, and we will consult you on how obviously get the most out of Streamtime and how to make better decisions towards your business and your people. So when we send you some of the prompts or those insights, we would essentially scan the job for anything that is missing. So here's an example of what could be done better. So Hazel here, as a team member, doesn't have a cost rate assigned to them in their profile within Streamtime, but they've been assigned to an item on the job. Therefore, it will affect your profit calculation. So there's a prompt here. You can click on Hazel's name and set their cost rates. Once the cost rates are set up, Hazel's plant time and their cost and sell will be used in the plant margin calculation, which is a really useful prompt to have. Another one, a heads up type prompt where production studio as a client or a company that you're working for this job, has one or X number of invoices that are overdue. So if you click on this jump to, we will take you to a list of all invoices if there's more than one for the same company, so you can start chasing them for payment.
Yeah, I think that one's really interesting because it could be that one account manager is setting up a brand new job for a client, not knowing that another account manager's job is actually not yet paid. So I know that in lots of studios, it's kind of like, oh, let's make sure that we get paid for this before we start any new work. And so this just gives you a little heads up about any kind of flags that you might want to check. You might not want to, but it's there and it's information that Streamtime has that can maybe help you plan your job better.
Yeah, nice. Another example I've got here, this doesn't have any jump tos or any actions you can take, but this is a milestone on the job. So actually, design review with Sarah, same name as our Sarah here. That's a milestone name. So it will tell you when it's coming up. So the day of upcoming milestone as well. Really useful insight. So there's two parts of the pulse check. So this insight section, and there are more insight, more examples of insights I'll show you in a minute as well. But there's also this comparison part. So comparison part, Sarah mentioned at the beginning that it is really exciting, and all the calculations and all the work that went into it is really useful. So the way we look at it is based on the information that we have in this system, it is a standard deviation compared to all jobs in the past. So here's an example of a budget comparison. So if you are flashbacks of my uni days and statistics course, so we've got a standard deviation, which is you've got a bunch of data or a data set, and you can see how certain data is or how it's spread from
like a little mini bell curve. Imagine a bell curve.
A bell curve, exactly.
On that little gradient strip.
I believe, technically speaking, and I guess it was a big design challenge for Sarah and Isabel and our design team. It was quite difficult to display a bell curve in the pulse check. I guess the spacing was or played a big role here as well. So we wanted to look like a bell curve rather than some sort of a progress bar compared to a progress bar on the left or in the middle here. So it is, so for example here, if the standard deviation is higher or high, it means your job is planned essentially, it's not a bad thing, but it's planned differently compared to all the jobs in the past. So you can see this tooltip is telling me exactly what I need to know. So we've got all jobs for the past 12 months, and the number is 5 currently. We don't have that many jobs in this account. This job has a budget of 17.6K. The variance is 18%. Profit margin, you can see the deviation variance is a bit bigger as well, comparing to 4 jobs. And this is where we look at only completed jobs in the past 12 months. Yeah. Really useful insights. Yeah, Sarah, go on.
Yeah, I guess it's just kind of showing where this job sits against different averages of the information that we have. And when you hover over it and it says, okay, it's a little bit lower average budget, that might not necessarily be a bad thing. It's just a smaller job. So all of those stats are kind of to be taken in conjunction with everything else you're looking at. So you might have a smaller budget, but you might have a higher profit margin, or maybe you have a lower profit margin and you have a higher profit. Sometimes you might see a profit comparison there as well. So it's just giving you extra contextual details in that section is the goal there to help you overall.
Yeah, exactly. there are a few examples of the pulse check that I would love to show you as well. So this one, yeah, we've talked about it. Oh, I like this one. So this is another job example, and you could see this insights telling you that the cost in the job are higher than what you've invoiced so far. Really useful to know. Now it should prompt you to create an invoice. So once you see it, okay, great, we've used XYZ, we have to invoice for that and get paid, manage the cash flow. Another one I would love to show you too. I think it's this one. It is a handy one too. It will be visible on the new jobs most likely. So if you don't have a budget on the job, set one now. It is important that you do have a budget on the job. Budget help us calculate margins or all types of profit margins or plan margin. So it is important that you have a budget on the job. And the way you can set it up is either by creating a quote and getting it approved or manually editing the budget field. You might see a lot more insights. And then again, this is still a work in progress. So we're constantly developing this part of the job page. What I like about a pulse check as well, that you can hide the comparison part and just keep the insights. Useful and saves you some space as well. The dates and activity going down also have been changed. So there are a few design updates to the section itself, but then we've also introduced the post description. So now each post can have a description, and obviously if you are using posts and comments within Streamtime, you're quite familiar on what you can add into the post. You can also open the post, the whole section in a sidebar view. So if you do have obviously everything turned on, by everything I mean activity, everything that's been done within the job, comments and posts might get busy. So you can open a little sidebar here and then chat within the team and add tag team members, etc. to get notified.
What's nice about that too is that if you scroll down a bit further, Polly, that little sticky, when you scroll further from the Jumbotron, you get that new panel there that gives you the used planned, both hours and dollars, and also the sidebar. So if you're halfway down the job plan and you want to write a quick comment, you can just click that sidebar button on the far right.
Yes.
And comment without having to scroll back up. And you can also toggle the cost and sell values as well. Just while you're down there, if you're looking at a phase or anything in particular, much more easily than before. Quite like that little mini roll up that we put in towards the end of development there.
Yeah, nice. Now going into chat section. So if you are familiar with the current / old job page, we would show you a burn-up graph as such, and there's some design changes applied to this one. So it's a more of a cumulative graph, and you can view it by cell values, cost values, and obviously hours. But now we've introduced another type of graph, which is you're viewing your job over time. I guess it's a bar graph. So you can look at it by, let's just look at hours, for example. You could see a breakdown of, I believe those are weeks. And then you could, weeks. And you could see how your job is tracking based on the, I guess, date range that we're looking at right now. And then you could see here a good example that we track 4 hours more than we should have, so you could see it visually on the graph itself. You could see where things went wrong, something that you weren't able to see easily on the job plan itself without running a report or custom reports.
And that's another thing that modernization's helped with. I think the graph for the groups feature, if any of you are using the groups feature, has a similar sort of visual language in terms of if you set a target, we will show you how far you are from setting your target. In this instance, it's your planned amount. So it will show you, how far you are over or under what you've planned, so long as you've got your dates set on items. It's always the key thing for us to be able to back calculate where your planned hours should technically sit.
Yeah, that is true. Dates are really important for this. Something that I didn't mention at the start, but you might look at this once, right? At the start of the job, look at the Jumbotron itself or the dashboard of the job once. So you might not need to open the job and look at it all the time. So we've got an option here, 2 options. You can either scroll down to the job plan straight away. So this button here will take you down to the job plan, which is the newest addition to this, to the new job page, which is really handy. Or you might want to collapse the Jumbotron altogether. So I will hide it, and you still see this progress information of the job. So you could see how your each of the time and expenses are tracking on the project, how you're going in terms of time per team member, cost and sell values can be changed as well. But you don't necessarily need to see all the progress bars, etc. So you might take a bit of space from on your monitor. So you can obviously keep it hidden.
Yeah, it depends on the context in which you're working, right? If you're drilling into creating items and expenses, then you might want to tuck that away. But if you want to track how things are going, you might open it up. Just gives you options.
Yeah, nice. So now I'm just going to hide the Jumbotron for a bit and focus on the job plan. So we did make a lot of changes to the job page, on the job plan specifically. And as you know, if you are familiar with Streamtime, the job plan technically consists of items and expenses, but the only way for you to see combination of items, phases, and expenses was by creating a quote and invoice. That is the previous version of the job page. So if you create a quote and invoice on the job plan, you'll be able to merge some expenses on the phases there, share them with client, etc. All really good. Same functionality state within Streamtime. But now, as Sarah mentioned at the start, we are able to, or you are able to see your expenses on the job page too. What's even better, you're able to add your expenses directly under phases. So the phases still, there's the same concept of phases. They're bigger chunks of work. There's a budget, comes from items and now expenses, but you are able to move an expense against the phase and then see how the entire phase is tracking according to their cost or third-party cost and actual time spent. So I'm going to show you an example. Let me just close.
Polly, I might interrupt you just at this point because we're running towards the end of 3 and we'll probably go over. But I wanted to invite anybody who's based in Sydney to come to an event that we're holding. Actually, Polly's idea to invite anyone who might be joining this webinar to an event that we're holding in late June. We're going to be talking, Andy and I will be presenting and talking about all our plans for the future. And we have a sneaky rebrand that we're launching as well. You might get a freebie, have breakfast on us. So please, if you're in Sydney and feel like chatting with us for a breakfast on the 26th of June, please come along. I'm going to link the Humanitics event into the chat before people may have meetings or something, have to drop off. But we're going to keep going as well.
Yeah, nice. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, good one. We are almost at the end of the session. So if you guys keen to stay, please stay, because this is I guess it's really the most exciting part for me, at least. So adding expenses to phases, which is something that we've added recently, and you can take advantage of this functionality straight away as you switch to the new job page. So I've got an example here. I'm going to close my or collapse my completed phases, and I will show you, touch base on them in a bit, but I would love to show you how you can add an expense under a phase directly. By default, if you have expenses in the job plan and then you're switching to this version, we will show you expenses under their own phase. So nothing will stop, nothing will change from you here. You will create a new quote or invoice, your expenses will still be visible there. But what you can do, and Jake spoke about dragging and dropping, how challenging it was, it's working perfectly. So I would love to add my freelance copywriter to my copywriting phase, because I do have an internal copywriter, but then we are paying extra to hire a freelance copywriter. And I would love this expense to be visible against the phase. So I'm going to drag this expense against the copywriting phase. What you can see here is that the planned cell is updated. However, used cell hasn't. The reason is that my expense is still in draft. So it still works the same way as before. We would love for you to approve an expense if you want this expense to be counted in all the profit calculations. So draft expense used for plan margin, approved for projected and actual. So if I approve this expense, and you can do that in line, so you don't have to edit it, but however, you can, of course, edit it. Now you could see the cost of that expense is visible against the phase as well. We've made, we've done some more work on how we display the information of phases too, which is another big type of feedback that we received. So you could see a breakdown of time and material on the phase and the percentage used, which is really handy, which is the same info as we show at the top when we look at team progress bar. And then the percentage or margin percentage, which is something that we've added as well. So there are two types of profit margin that we showcase. So there's a plan margin and current, which is essentially, current margin, which is actual. How much you've planned, what's the actual, and then you've got and you've got the total here. So I think the 56 is actually based on plan for now. Once the phase is complete, we will use the actual. Is that right, Jake? I feel like now I'm talking too much.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's right. Okay, good. All right, so this is how you can add an expense to a phase. You can also create an expense against the phase in line. So you've got an option here to add an expense directly to a design development phase, or you can add an expense to a job in here. You are able to change some field or most fields on an expense itself. So I'm happy to keep the disbursements budget within expenses, other expenses phase, but I'm able to edit them too without opening up a model itself. With items, we've made some changes too. So items, obviously your deliverables, so key milestones potentially. Obviously there's some design changes applied. But also, I really love the separated start and end dates, which is really handy to see, especially if I don't have a date set. So if I'm looking at this job and I might have a start date but not end, I'll be able to notice that straight away. Really handy. And obviously,
I do love the new date picker as well. We've been that one has been something I've wanted to update for so long, and the ability now to create the actual range within one date picker is so much quicker and easier to set your dates.
Yeah,
switch over.
Definitely. This is new, but now I'm already confused looking at this new job page for so long. Adding a team member to a phase directly, you were able to do that within the three-dot menu, but now you can see list of team members assigned to a phase all in one view. I guess it's easier to make changes to it, and then you can add a team member or a role directly from here too. And you can, of course, take the same actions as previously. So duplicate. When you're duplicating a phase, we're duplicating an expense as well within that phase too. If you're not familiar with any of that, I 100% recommend switching to the new job page, running a test project, or if you have a job that you're about to start, I would plan it from here. And the reason we're asking you to switch now is that you're more than welcome to share your feedback with us, because it is still a beta version and we are developing it as we speak. So any feedback that you have for us, please share with us. You can either do it in the chat directly in this webinar or email help@streamtime.net with your feedback, and then we will come back to you. It is really perfect timing to review it. So please do. I think that's pretty much it in the new job page. What do you think? Did I forget anything important? I feel like I probably have, but I've covered all the big updates. Any questions from the audience as well?
Is there a dark mode in the roadmap? There is actually, but it requires so the design system that we talked about earlier. Look, Jake's got a big grin on his face. The design system that we talked about earlier is building all the foundation for us to be able to do that. In the previous code base of the product. Basically, every color, we'd have to switch them all one by one. But now what we've built in are design tokens. So instead of, say, for example, saying black, we would say foreground. Foreground primary is what we would use as the token. So in one theme, foreground primary, the text color of the job name here is dark, but in a dark theme, the foreground primary would be light. The thing about pushing it to live, so for everyone to be able to actually use it, is that we have to convert more of the product into this newer code base. So we're doing that piece by piece. The next couple of things I'm happy to share that the next couple of areas that we're working on is the timeline. So there's a new design, including small updates to the timeline that's coming up next, and priorities is also getting completely refactored too. So as we work through moving those features into modernized code, one day we will get to the dark mode. It's not that far away, but it's not that close either. If that helps.
Nice. I saw a question from Rick there, Sarah. Rick.
Yes.
So he's asking about updating a contact or creating a new contact within the job page. You can. Updating an email.
That one, actually, we have received that feedback too. And Jake, I was going to actually put that forward as a new modal to modernize. This feels it's very public, isn't it? Everyone knowing. Yes, so the contact, we do want to be able to do that. We're going to have a look at how much that might take. I've wanted to plan total cost for some time. Is there any intention to have this on the Jumbotron? Plan total cost. It wasn't. It's possible. It's definitely possible. Leave that one with us. We'll have a think about how we might best surface that, because yes, we do have planned sell, and now we do have a lot of calculations coming off planned costs. So it would be, I understand that would be a useful thing to have. Yay for updated timeline. Yay.
See it from the job cost report, but obviously it is not the same. It's not on a job page, but yeah, no.
Yeah. Fiona, we did actually push an update for copying the job page fairly quickly. So what you have to do in job number fairly quickly. So what you have to do now is just open up the settings modal, and then there's a little quick button there, and that copies it. And you don't need to even highlight it and do your Control V. You just press that button and it's copied. Yeah.
Really useful. And this is an example of how easy it is for us to make changes to the job page based on feedback. We're not going to do everything that you're asking for, easy, but it is better. It works faster for us internally as well. It's great. And no more questions, but that's okay. If you have questions that you forgot to ask, please email help@streamtime.net, and I'm just going to add that in, help@streamtime.net. Questions, feedback, anything on the job page, please shout, and then we're happy to meet with you and discuss any type of workflow that we haven't mentioned today. Great.
Thank you all for joining.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm going to stop sharing. We will run more webinars on the pulse check and what you can do with that as well. I think that's useful for everyone, more of a consultative approach to managing jobs in Streamtime. So you will see some updates in your inbox from us around that. And thanks everyone. And thanks Jake and Sarah. It was a great session.
Very welcome. Yeah, last call out for customers to come and join us in Sydney. If you're in Sydney, we'd love to meet you in person. It's sometimes very funny on these webinars, talking into the ether. We can see the chat and we're very excited, but it'd be nice to meet head face if you'd like to. Thanks, Poli, for planning and running this all.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.